Hi, I'm Felix Fighter, and today I played Enter the Gungeon. That's right, it's back, baby. Quick recap in case you didn't see my last video on the Gungeon. Enter the Gungeon is a game that looks at a dungeon and says, you know what this needs? More guns. Last time I played, I kinda got my ass handed to me and didn't even manage to make it past the second floor. But I'm a stubborn bastard, and I couldn't let that stand. So, that being said, it's finally time to get back into the Gungeon. The first thing I needed to do if I wanted to conquer the Gungeon was attack it with a different approach than I had before. I was going to need to be determined. I was going to need to be tough. And most importantly, I was going to need to learn how to fight dirty. And no one knows how to fight dirtier than the convict. With a heavy heart, I left behind my faithful Marine and joined sides with the cutthroat convict. Being a destructive force of chaos, the convict enters the Gungeon with a whole arsenal at her fingertips, bringing a snub nose, a sawed-off, and a Molotov. On top of that, she knows how to keep fighting when she's down, granting herself a temporary buff to damage when she's hurt. This was just the change I needed as I delved back into the depths of the Gungeon below. Like most Gungeon runs, this one started out pretty slow. I mean, standard procedure of go to room, kill bullets in room with bullets, move on, hope for loot. Speaking of loot, by the way, in one of the first rooms of the run, I had a very rare drop. I mean, a whole ass chest appeared when I cleared the room, which I've only ever had happen a couple of times. Trying not to get my hopes up, I opened the chest to find this gun? I mean, if you can even call it that. Was pretty damn wacky. The type of rounds that it fired changed every time I reloaded it, alternating between poison and fire shots. Figuring that the status effects attached to it would be pretty damn good in a boss fight, I chose to go back to using my base guns and preserve the ant's ammo. Shortly after finding the ant though, I came across a familiar face, Shopkeeper Bob. Actually, I don't really know if this guy's name is Bob. In fact, I don't even know if the game gives him one, but it doesn't really matter. To me, he was always going to be Shopkeeper Bob. Anyway, for the time being, I had no monies because I'm still a poor man. And so I'm pretty quickly set back out into the Gungeon. As I continued my conquest of the Gungeon, I came across some silly little birds and their big, buff, sword-wielding cousin, who I'm choosing to name Invictus. Invictus is a little bitch though, so I forced him to watch me slaughter his avian friends before bending him over and spanking his ass. Anyways, the only reason why I bring this up is because he dropped a key, which I was able to use to open a chest, and that chest had a heck blaster in it. The gun shoots fast as heck, but it does like no damage, so I mostly just used it to clear floor rooms. That being said, it did come with one massive upside, and that was the heck combined with my ant to make a queen ant, which did all kinds of wacky shit like shoot lightning, so, you know, that's pretty cool. On top of that, shortly after evolving my ant, I found a black chest that had a reload stone in it. At first I had no fucking clue what this did, but when I examined it in my inventory, I learned that when activated, it would absorb incoming projectiles and convert them into ammo. Not only does this thing make me literally invincible for a few seconds, but it also refills my fucking magazine. This is overpowered as hell, and I was fucking ecstatic to get it. With my ant in hand and my reload stone ready, it was finally time to enter the first boss arena. And it was the Trigger Twins. Great. For those of you who don't know, the Trigger Twins are my least favorite first floor boss fight. That being said, I soon learned just how strong my Queen Ant was. Each shot did a literal sixth of a twin's health bar. Along with that, I learned that when the reload stone said a brief moment, it really meant like a whole 4 or 5 seconds of invulnerability. With these two items, I beat the twins without taking a single hit in record time. It was absolutely insane. Upon their death, I was met with an unusual sight. Not one, but 2 reward pedestals stood before me, bearing rewards. The first had a heart container that raised my max health by 1, which is, I mean, a pretty standard reward. But on the other pedestal sat the bullet of Chamber 1 mastery. Upon investigating the item further, I found that all it said was that it was proof that I had mastered the first floor. And if I'm being honest, I never actually found out what it was for. My running theory is that it's something for the late game or for like in-game stuff, but either way, the show must go on. Quickly after entering floor 2, I noticed a marker on my map marking the entrance to a mini-boss room. Also, that boss room, not gonna touch it. Having a good run. That is the best way to ruin a good run. Unless... Hear me out. I've got a good gun. I've got a lot of health. I've beaten that guy before with a good gun and a lot of health. I got this. I got this. I got this. I've got this. I've got this. I've got this. If I keep saying it, it'll be true. I'm having to, like, kind of try to watch where he is while also mostly paying attention to myself. As it turns out, I actually did have it. You see, I may still be pretty bad at this game. And this boss's attack patterns are still pretty bullshit. But both of those can be covered up with enough firepower, baby. I was able to quickly send that flying son of a bitch to an early grave. And on top of that, I only took 3 hits. It's fucking great. Upon his death, a plethora of goodies sprung up from the floor. Most important of which was a giant golden key. Last time that I found one of these keys, I was able to free some merchants that added items to the dungeon permanently. So let's just say it's a bit of a big deal. And next to the key was a map of the floor, which showed me the perfect path to the helpless prisoner that I now had the tools to release. After a small detour to buy a silver key for the door to the cell block, I found a captured... vampire? A vampire? How you doing there, lady? Why did her eyes go out? Like, I was gonna give her, like, I don't know what voice to give her now, because I was gonna give her, like, a very more sophisticated voice. And then I see both of her eyes go, You freed me. Why? Do you not want to be freed? Did I waste my time freeing you? Are you a bitch? Yes, in fact, she is a bitch. And an ungrateful one at that. I mean, I broke her ass out of a dungeon full of monsters. And she has the nerve to have an attitude with me. Vampires these days just don't know how to act. Such a shame. Anyways, a few rooms later, I ran into my old friend, the Mencher. Not wanting to pass up the opportunity for a new gun, I quickly set to work, feeding the hungry little fellers some weaponry. In my blind greed, though, I forgot how important the heck was to my build, and tossed out the thing, thinking it a useless gun for nothing but floor clear. This meant that my queen ant returned to being the much, much, much weaker normal ant. And in return, do you know what I got? A balloon gun. A fucking balloon gun. I mean, I know it's my own damn fault, but god damn, did the Muncher screw me over. This thing has no range, and absolutely horrendous projectile speed. The heck alone would have been better than this thing, and the queen ant could have kicked its ass with her hands tied and her eyes blindfolded. God, I'm such a fucking idiot. That being said, there's no point in dwelling on the past. It was finally time for me to set foot into the second floor arena once more. Not once had I made it past this arena, and even now the odds were stacked against me, as I had lost my prized queen ant. Even still, I fought against the Gorgon, the very boss that had shot me down just weeks ago, with every ounce of strength I had. I dodged and I dipped, as I dumped clip after clip of ammo into her scaly hide, slowly chipping away at her with every shot. The fire is what was ultimately her undoing. As my pitiful shots impacted against her hide, they did minimal damage, but the flames that erupted from their blast burned away at her scaly hide every moment. In a searing rage, she filled the arena with deadly projectiles, but for her, it was already too late. As I fired those last few shots, I felt joy like I had never felt before. I finally did it! I finally beat the second floor! Only 4 more to go. Wait, was I really struggling before the halfway point? For the first time, I set foot into the Black Powder Mines, and let me say, it was fairly anticlimactic. There was a huge difficulty jump between floor 1 and floor 2 that was not present between floors 2 and 3. If I had to guess, I'd say it's because floor 1 is more of like a tutorial floor compared to the rest, but still, it felt a little disappointing. That's not to say that the floor was any easier, and the new enemies with the new attack patterns I didn't know really did keep me on my toes, which was a nice change of pace. That being said, one cool thing that came with the floor was minecarts. They don't really do anything interesting, but still, minecarts. I don't know, man, I'm just grasping at straws here. Oh, by the way, to further drive home how disappointing floor 3 was, it had the smallest map floor I'd seen so far. I mean, this thing was literally half the size of the previous floors I'd been on this run, meaning that next to nothing happened before the 3rd floor boss fight. I didn't even find any items. At least that's what I thought, until I realized I'm a dumbass, and there was an entire other half of the floor that I had overlooked. Around here, I started to realize that on top of facing new enemies, some of the enemies I'd seen on previous floors were now sporting new attack patterns that I'd not seen before. It was kind of cool in a scare the shit out of me randomly kind of way. That being said, I didn't really find anything, so boss time! For the first time, I stood before the 3rd floor boss arena and prepared to fight. And by prepared to fight, I mean I ran straight in without a single thought. What awaited me inside was a terrifying psychic beast, the Mind Flayer. I had one question, and one question alone as I stood before him. Why does the Mind Flayer have a fucking Glock? At first, it seemed like I'd be able to kick his ass. I mean, from the beginning, all he did was stand still in the middle of the ring and throw out these really easy to dodge attacks and slow-moving explosives. I mean, it seemed like it'd be an easy fight. Until he struck his bell. His bell chimes for the most bullshit attacks. First, he shot out 5 volleys of tight-packed bullets that bounced off the walls and filled the arena to where it was almost impossible to step literally anywhere. And following that was a bullshit spiral of death that seems to be unfucking dodgeable. To make it all so much worse, I soon realized that all of my good weapons were completely out of ammo, meaning that I couldn't even try to shred his ass. It was the perfect shitstorm that caused this fight to quickly spiral out of my control. In one last-ditch effort, I desperately tried to pelt him with a barrage of bullets from my alien blaster. But it was all in vain, as another bullshit spiral of broken dreams and children's tears slammed into me, bringing my perfect run to a sad, bitter end.